So this is a classic lie example as well. Like, I would rather lie so I don't have to deal with you. I would rather lie so I don't have to deal with your emotions. I would rather lie so I don't have to deal with your reaction. I would rather lie than deal with your sadness or your hurt or anything like that. What it comes down to it is the narcissist wants to lie to be able to protect their self-image, wants to lie so that they don't have to feel bad for all the pain and all the problems that they've caused other people. It is a hard one a lot of times for empaths to be able to understand, because for the narcissist, like, just that other person being hurt, sharing their frustration, sharing their tears, things like that, doesn't really do a whole lot to move the other person. And in fact, most of the time for the narcissist, it makes them frustrated, it makes them mad, it makes them rage, partially because like what they're dealing with is someone else's emotions, and they don't know how to deal with that because they don't know how to process their own emotions or to be able to respond in a mature way. Yeah, because for the narc, a lot of times they don't know any other emotions, and the emotions that they feel, they don't know how to deal with. So as a result, it just comes out as anger or rage because they're ashamed of who they are. They can't figure out how they're supposed to emote, and so they just resort to what they know best. So the lie of omission sometimes that the narc ends up turning back on you. I didn't tell you everything because I love you so much. I didn't tell you everything because I was afraid of how you're going to respond. I didn't tell you everything because I was afraid of what you were going to say. A lot of times the narc doesn't want to be able to tell people things because they know the response, because they know the response is going to be justified based on the things that they did wrong to the other person. So for me, I'm not trying to invalidate your feelings. I'm not trying to invalidate anything that you've gone through or the hurt or the trauma that you've experienced in your life because of being involved with another narcissist. What I am saying is that the anger and the bitterness that has you post and say stuff about wanting to have narcissists all should die, like kill the narcissist, like different things like that that are very like degrading just to human life, I don't agree with that, and I don't think that's beneficial. A lot of people out there that have done awful things, including narcissists, sociopaths, people that do rape, people that murder, multiple things like that. But I still think that it's not justification for you just to come out and say, hey, all these people should die. I think that you have a lot of anger and a lot of hurt, and I'm just saying I think you need to talk to someone about that. Like, if that's an awful thing, me suggesting that you get counseling to help deal with every bit of hurt and anger that you have, like, just trying to help. I don't think all narcissists are chameleons because some of them stand out very quickly. Maybe some of the covert narcissists can be a little bit more chameleons. I do think that also depends on their personality styles. So for me, with the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm a high D disc personality. Like, my personality style really doesn't change a whole lot. I'll modify or like tweak it a little bit depending on who I might be around, but it's a lot different than someone who's more sensitive, or a lot different than like an Enneagram 3 that actually ends up like shape-shifting and like changing in the environment that they're around. So now you have the lie of technicality of like, no, technically I didn't talk to them, I texted them. Like, the narc is always going to try to find a way to be able to weasel out of whatever you're asking and be able to provide the best logical answer that is going to be truthful in their eyes, but is not truthful at all, because they're admitting certain parts of the truth. They're twisting it so that they can feel right about themselves, even though they're not being honest at all. There's a million things that can trigger narcissists to rage and to have anger. A lot of times it's dealing with some type of emotion, or trying to deal with another person and they don't understand or they don't know how to, or just not being in control, not getting a supply, like whatever it might be. It's even worse when the narc is on something, whether they're drinking or doing drugs or something like that. They end up, that ends up being more flamboyant and more crazy in one sense, but it's always something different, and it could be completely different for every narcissist out there. So I think a lot of times narcissists do understand that they are doing something is wrong, but after you repeat that so many times over and over and over again, what they start doing is they start twisting it, they start rewriting it and believing that they're actually the victim. And it gets to the place where that all those lies and that reality starts changing, that they actually start believing the new reality that they've created, and after a while that just becomes their norm, and they believe that 100%. Yeah, so a narcissist is going to call them half-truths because they'd rather have a half-truth than they would admit that it's a whole lie. That's the difference between a narcissist, because a narcissist isn't going to admit that they're wrong. They're not going to admit that they've actually lied. They'd rather want to twist it, manipulate it however they can. So for me, when I was in the midst of it and everything, I wouldn't want to admit that I was wrong, ever. Never. I was never wrong about anything. Maybe if I got to the place where I was, in my mind, I knew, yeah, I was actually wrong, I might eventually get to the place where I'd say, maybe I was less right. But actually saying the words wrong was almost like physically impossible. They wouldn't come out. For me personally, I think a lot of times is avoidance of uncomfortable emotions, uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable things that I don't want to deal with. And so as a result, I like shut it down and just disassociate from it completely. I ended up knowing that I was trauma bonded when I let her abuse be my apology. And as a result, I started realizing step by step as gaslit each other, manipulated each other, controlled each other, everything like that, that this is not where I need to be. And it took me a long time to see that. Like, it took me like months to see that. It took my wife, other people in my life saying, hey, do you not see this? This person is doing this to you. Like, I didn't want to admit it. I wanted to believe the best about the other person because I was love bombing them. Like, they were love bombing me. Like, we were in this like fantastic relationship, like all this kind of stuff. But I didn't want to admit that I was trauma bonded. And it took me a while to actually see it. It took me longer to deal with it and actually cut that person out of my life. I wouldn't say that it's always planned out, but sometimes like in the moment it comes as a thought and it comes as like a quick plan, like just automatically in the head of like, if I do this, it's going to cause this, which will cause this, which will cause this, etc.